Exciting Neo Geo! あのモンスターたちがパワーアップして帰ってきた超過激アクションゲーム King of the Monsters SNK。
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Ultimate Neo Geo review here on Player One Start. In today's video, we're going to finish up taking a look at the launch titles, because in the last video it kind of ran a little long when I was talking about the launch of the system, how my Neo Geo non-1975 isn't quite authentic, and we looked at the two pack-in titles. In this video, we're going to take a look at the other games that were available if those pack-in titles weren't enough to whet your appetite. Let's see if we can find any good games in this lot. As I mentioned in the last video, something that helped the Neo Geo AES at console launch here in the US was the fact that, a year earlier, the MVS and AES had launched in Japan, and due to the easy porting process between the two systems, it allowed SNK the ability to offer a variety of launch titles, more so than you would see at other systems of the time. In the previous video, we took a look at two titles that were packed into the console available at launch, that being NOM 1975 and Baseball Stars Professional. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the rest of the games that were available at launch for consumers to add to their library if they had the money to do so. As in my other reviews, I'm going to go ahead and give an overview of the titles, and then I'll dive into a few of them. Let's go ahead and take a look. As there are so many launch titles, I decided to go ahead and review these by genre, starting with the run and guns and shooters. The most unique of which I found was Cyberlip. In this game, you make your way through a variety of side-scrolling stages, battling through large numbers of enemies, collecting power-ups, and defeating several end-stage bosses. You can pick up more powerful weapons across your gameplay, however, you must conserve the ammunition as they are not unlimited. One part of the gameplay I found a bit annoying is that at the end of each stage, you have to decide whether you're going to go up or down in an elevator, and choosing the wrong choice, which seems to be random, will send you through a dangerous sublevel before you can proceed to the next stage. After you pass through all of the stages, you'll be presented with a computer room with 8 doors, which randomly determine which of the previous 6 bosses you will face. There is also another ammunition room, and finally the room to face Cyberlip itself. Overall, I found this game to be just okay. I didn't really get too bored of it, but I also didn't enjoy it to the point where I'd say that everybody needs to play this game. I definitely found the inability to shoot diagonally or even down when jumping to be downright cruel, especially when the enemies in the game can do it. My overall rating of this game is that I'd give it a 6 out of 10, which is just barely passable. However, I've seen reviews of this game go from the lower 3s to the upper 7s. Needless to say, it kind of depends on whether or not you're going to like this one.
Let's roll! Ready, go!
Alpha Mission 2 is a vertically scrolling full-screen shoot-'em-up released by SNK, and as the name suggests, it's the sequel to the 1985 arcade game, of which I had only played its port on the NES, and I enjoyed that quite thoroughly. And I have to say, after playing the NES version, I definitely prefer the Neo Geo version, as it provides that arcade upgrade that this game was sorely lacking on the NES. In this game, you play as a fighter spacecraft that can shoot enemies in the air, bomb enemies on the ground, and collect power-ups to defeat bosses and advance through different levels. Overall, this provides a solid experience, and I think it would be best enjoyed by those that actually enjoy these scrolling shooters, but even if you don't enjoy these, this will also provide you with a solid gaming experience. But as with all space shooters, be prepared for a bit of a challenge. Overall, I give this game about an 8 out of 10, and that rating falls right within the middle of other reviewers I've seen rate this game, somewhere between a 6 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. The Super Spy is probably one of the most unique titles I've seen on this system. It offers a first-person perspective, and it allows you to go through side-scrolling sections, and even every once in a while going through like a 3D tunnel. But it's in these 3D tunnel sections where you can obviously tell that they are faking the 3D. To tell you the truth, I decided to go ahead and name this in with the shooters, but it's more of like a hack-and-slash game, as the weapons that you get in this game that can shoot often have limited ammo. Most of the time, I thought the gameplay reminded me of things like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, where you have to have reflex challenges and you have to duck and dodge, as well as hit and kick. Overall, I found this game fun for about the first 10 to 15 minutes, but it got boring really quick as the gameplay doesn't really evolve the farther you move into the game. And once I saw there were 16 floors to the second level, I decided to check out after about an hour of playing. I'd rank this at about a 5 out of 10, and I've seen review scores go anywhere between a 4 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10, so your experience may vary from my experience. Out of all the shooter games that launched with the system, I think my favorite has to be Ghost Pilots. This is a vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up game, with gameplay that reminds me a lot of games like Capcom's 1942. Again, this plays like a typical vertical scrolling shooter, so if you're into these kind of games, this is something you might want to pick up. Overall, I gave this about an 8 out of 10, even though I've seen review scores go from 5 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. Again, the reviewers seem to be all over the board with this one.
Ghost Pilots, for me, was a special treat on this system. I think this one's going to be probably my favorite out of the launch lineup even. This game is a solid vertically scrolling shooter.
I found myself playing this almost all the way through in one sitting. I just could not put it down. And I think that's something where if you like scrolling shooters, this is another typical example of a good one. I think they hit it out of the park right at the gate. And for a game system that's mainly known for fighters, I think this game system's actually going to be known for shooters as well, at least for me, because a lot of other game systems at the time, like the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, really tried to mimic these early shooters, and they all have some sort of issue. Either they suffer from slowdown, couldn't have as many enemies on the screen, or, they had some sort of limitation. This game doesn't, and this really puts me back into the days when I was in the arcade and I would play these games. So the fact that they're less restricted, I think makes this a better experience for me personally, a person who likes these shooters, than they would on any other system.
Next up are the beat 'em up, and I guess the one fighting game that was released at launch. I find that a bit odd considering how many fighting games would be released before the end of the system's life. The first of which I'm going to look at is Ninja Combat, and this one is a huge pass for me. In terms of side-scrolling beat-em-ups, I found this one to be subpar and mediocre. Since this game's release, reviewers have been critical of the game's short length, easy difficulty, and repetitive gameplay, but for me I just found the game unremarkable and boring. When gamers rediscovered this title on the Wii, they gave it a very low score. I've seen 2 out of 10 to 4 out of 10 for this title, and I would say I have to agree with that. It just seems to me that the game was poorly executed. Given the game's stiff control and poor hit detection, I would say to avoid this one at all costs. Sengoku, on the other hand, is a title I enjoyed very much. But not really because it offers anything groundbreaking. I think that the subject matter and the art style and the plot of this game is a bit more unique than games I played of this genre at the time. Again, I've seen game reviewers give this around a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and I might rank it there. I would probably bump it up to about a 7 out of 10, but I realize this game won't be everyone's cup of tea.
Sengoku, for me, is a unique beat-em-up. It seems kind of strange compared to the other beat-em-ups that were around this time period. Think about, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Streets of Rage, which will come out a little bit later than this. To me, I think that makes it a bit more enjoyable, that it is unique. So while I don't think this will have as much of a universal appeal as those other franchises, I really feel like this game is maybe not a hidden gem, but it was hidden to me.
Last, we're going to look at King of Monsters, and again, this game is another pass for me. I just really couldn't get into it, especially considering the number of very good, high-quality fighting games that we released on this platform before the system was done. It left me wanting a lot more than this game offers. Looking at the puzzle and platformer games, I thought I'd start with a puzzle game that is strangely called Puzzled. When looking at this game, maybe another famous puzzle game from the time period will be flashing across your mind, as I know it was for me. It does look a lot like Tetris, and the core gameplay is about the same. However, your goal in each level is actually to free the blimp, or whatever that is, at the bottom of the screen by clearing out all of the obstacles. And of course, like in Tetris, the only way to clear rows is to actually complete them out. Upon its release in Japan, this game was actually the top arcade game of 1990, outperforming other titles such as Carrier Air Wing and Raiden. However, I get the impression that here in the US, this game was not received as well. In my opinion, while this game is not as good as original classic Tetris in my mind, I found that the twist on the gameplay was actually kind of a unique concept, and I found myself playing this for a little bit. So if you do like Tetris and you don't mind seeing a twist in the gameplay, I would say give this one a try. You may be surprised that you like it. But if you don't like Tetris, I would say to avoid it. Blue's Journey is a side-scrolling platform game that was released by Alpha Denshi. In this game, your character, named Blue, has the ability to stun enemies, pick them up, and throw them as projectiles. The character can also shrink himself down in order to access hidden areas, and a second player can take control of an unnamed green palette swap of Blue. Overall, I did enjoy my initial playthrough of this game, and I think I've been back to it a couple times since. I feel like the game is designed really well, and it held my interest through the different levels that I played. Reviewers of the time and contemporary reviews are kind to this title, giving it mixed to a positive reception. I would give this around a 7 out of 10, and would definitely recommend it to anyone who wants an introduction to platformers on this system, mainly because there aren't that many, and this is a good one. The other platform game available at launch was also by Alpha Denshi, and that was Magician Lord. This game reminds me of other platformers like Ghouls and Ghosts and Rastan. Your goal is to guide the protagonist through 8 stages of varying themes, where the main objective is to recover the 8 mistable books that were stolen by the game's main antagonist. Overall, while I did enjoy this game, I will note that some people may be turned away from the platformer's insane high difficulty, and that's where the flashbacks to Ghouls and Ghosts came in for me.
So Magician Lord is one of those games that I really feel like was meant to eat quarters in the arcades. I found out if you just stand still for even a little bit, there's this monster that pops out of the corner and starts instantly attacking you. It's really meant to make you keep going, so that if somebody else needs to use the arcade machine and pump in more quarters, then you're out of the way, or you put in more quarters yourself. So that's something I found was a bit of a turnoff for me personally on this game, as opposed to other platformers where I'm sometimes able to take my time.
And as usual, I have the least to say about the sports games on the system. League Bowling is just that, it's bowling, and it's on the Neo Geo, so there's that.
Writing Hero to me is a special treat because this reminds me a lot of those Raster Effect arcade games that I used to play very early on in the arcades back in the day. And although it's a very dated style today, I don't think it lives up as much today. It's something that I personally found a bit nostalgic. However, I do miss the gimmicks that used to come along with those arcade racers, as some of those, like I'm specifically thinking of like Super Hang-On, had a cabinet where you had a motorcycle you could sit on, or a steering wheel at the very least. Playing this with a joystick on the Neo Geo AES is not ideal, but again a special treat for me. So I've seen a lot of negative feedback on Top Players Golf for the Neo Geo, and I do agree with some of those criticisms, but as a launch title and one of the early golf games, comparing it to the games that came out around the same time, I really feel like it's either typical or really not that bad, or at least as bad as they were saying. Now I do agree with the reviews that there's a better golf game available even for this system, but for now I would say it's not unplayable. So overall, what did I think of the launch lineup of the Neo Geo AES? I feel that even though not every game was a Grand Slam home run winner in my opinion, I think that this was close to, if not, a perfect launch lineup for this system. Think about the variety of games that is offered on this system. We have sports, shooters, beat-em-ups, platformers. They have almost every game genre that is going to appeal to their game base here. I think that is something that every system launch should aspire to have. Now that said, a lot of these games were just ports of arcade games, and sadly that's not going to change as we go forward because that was the advantage of this system, is they could just port the arcade game very easily to this home system. And what I mean by sadly on that is that they are designed for one-run playthrough experiences. There is a memory card to go with this, but I don't really find myself wanting to save too much other than my high scores. But to tell you the truth, most games that were released for the Sega Genesis in this same time period in 1989, 90, and 91, they were all designed the same way. Think about Sonic the Hedgehog. It is designed to be played through in one sitting. Another game that came out in 1990 in the US, about the year before this system came out, was Super Mario Bros. 3. There's no save option there either. But the only thing I think holds these games back, that even though they don't have that save feature, they're designed to be played through in one sitting, these are games that are meant to challenge you over and over and over again because they were designed to eat quarters in the arcades, and they were also designed so that you couldn't just beat through them in 30 minutes and then you'd be bored after you just paid $650 for the console and $200 to $300 for a game for it. So that'll actually wrap it up for the launch lineup, and in the next videos in this series, we're going to start taking a look at games by genre. So stay tuned for those videos coming out to you real soon. That said, if you like what you see, don't forget to click on that like button, and if this is your first time here or you just haven't done so yet, please remember to click on that subscribe button on your way out. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned because I have more content coming. I will see you all in the next video.
If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.